better view. Our special tonight focuses on APEC Singapore 2009. Now, it's 20 years since APEC was established. The aim then, and still is now, is to strengthen the Asia-Pacific community by enhancing economic growth and prosperity for the region's peoples. Will the economic crisis that started last year, will the economic crisis that started last year, are they showing signs of recovery from the debilitating crisis? Now, one lesson from that experience is that Asian intra-regional trade is even more important than trade with the West, and it's made the idea of an EU-style trading bloc in Asia-Pacific an even more compelling one. Well, we'll be discussing that soon enough. My guests tonight are Pascal Lamy, Director General of the World Trade Organization, and Ernie Bauer, Southeast Asia Program Director for the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. Now, gentlemen, let's start with looking at the immediate economic concern. Now, just today, the World Bank President, Robert Zoellick, he pointed to some downside risks to world growth in 2010, and latest World Trade Organization's annual report mentions that the full social impact of the economic crisis has yet to be felt. Now, gentlemen, what's feared here? Mr. Lamy first.
Well, I think both are true. The jury is still out whether this recovery is sustainable or not. Very difficult to read in the numbers, and including the trade numbers. And what we know is that what matters for politics is not the growth, it's the job market. And we know that in most of this planet, the job market will keep deteriorating at least for the year to come, which is why we have to remain extremely vigilant.
From the United States point of view, let me just say that we've just experienced a 10.2 unemployment number, which is the highest since in 20 years. So this is a very important number. We're looking to Asia for dynamism in terms of growth and recovery. So the APEC meeting is very important in that context.
Well, you say it's very important. How do you see the trade and economic benefits of APEC helping, I suppose what your specialty is Southeast Asia, helping Southeast Asia, but you talked about the US unemployment situation as well. How will that trickle to the US?
Look, Southeast Asia and APEC generally account for over 50% of the world's GDP. And trade is very dynamic here. Singapore is sort of the canary in the coal mine on trade. I think trade accounts for well over 300% of GDP here. And in Southeast Asia, in aggregate, nearly 100% of GDP. So trade is important to these countries, and the United States, if we're going to take the next step towards recovery, we've got to be part of the trade opening process that Mr. Lamy is overseeing at WTO, and certainly in APEC also.
Well, at APEC, they talked a lot, they are talking a lot about inclusive growth and sustainable development, and one key area of focus would be labor. How do we take better care of labor? So what would you like to see, Mr. Lamy? What sort of steps do you want to see put in first?
If you look at this region as compared to the rest of the planet, it's a region of high pressure on growth and trade. At this time much better than the rest of the world, but true, quite a lot of inequalities, quite a lot of poor people, although there's been quite a lot of growth. So this notion that growth in this region should become more inclusive, hence increasing the domestic consumption capacity as opposed to an only export-driven growth, I think makes a lot of sense. But we know it's not going to happen overnight.
No. One of the safety nets they're talking about would be some kind of, I know it's a dirty word for some economies, welfare system. It's probably a little more acceptable in Europe as a way to deal with unemployment or the unemployed. In the US, you have some sort of benefits as well. But in Asia, how do you see different governments coming to some kind of common ground on that? And some governments might not even be able to afford providing a kind of safety net.
That's correct. But if you take the example of China, China is slowly but significantly moving to some sort of welfare on health, on education, on pensions. Again, it will take a lot of time, but I think personally that the big benefits which globalization, innovation, competition brings have to go hand in hand with a reduction of social insecurity. Otherwise, people will turn anti-foreigner or anti-trade, which, frankly speaking, is not the right solution.
Yes, I know protectionism is one of your favorite topics. We'll talk about that a little later. But right now, a lot of people seem to believe, and indeed, signs are showing that the engine of growth is right here in Asia. What do you see as some of the key areas of growth, and how robust do you think they are?
I would say, the services economy in Southeast Asia is very impressive. The growth in IT, back office services, outsourcing, very impressive. Tourism, also a great opportunity. I think one important thing that we should think about is China's rise. I think it would be hard for any of us to imagine 15 years ago that China's rise would be so smooth, relatively smooth, and relatively beneficial to the entire world economy, particularly Asia. So I think this is something that in the United States, it's a big focus of our debate. What do we do vis-a-vis China? But actually, I think China has come onto the world scene because they joined the WTO in large part. But I think they've come onto the world scene as a very positive power in terms of economic growth and trade.
Okay, we will have to leave it there for the time being, but we will be back to talk about, to examine the APEC ambition of creating a free trade zone for the Asia-Pacific, one similar to the European Union, including having perhaps a common currency.